The inaugural Artsfluence Human Rights Arts Festival gets underway at the University of Kwazulu-Natal this week. Cultural and gender activist Yusrah Bardien joins us now with more on this festival. Yusrah, thank you so much for your time. Before we talk about the festival, I mean, we've just celebrated Human Rights Month, or Day, if I can say, in April. And as South Africa, we have one of the best constitutions there is, compared to any other country. Yet human rights violations still go unpunished in this country. Talk to me about where you think we are with human rights.
Well, we do have one of the best constitutions in the world, but our rights are not guaranteed unless we continue to fight for them. And one of the pertinent issues right now is the hate crimes against members of the LGBTQI community, which bodies have been piling up over the last few months in a horrific manner. And the bill on hate crimes and speech is still sitting in Parliament without any movement. So it's important that we have a festival like this to raise the awareness, to add pressure to our powers that be, to ensure that our rights are protected and that every South African has the right to be who they want to be and how they were born.
Now, talk to us specifically about Artsfluence Human Rights Arts Festival. Obviously, I hear you speaking about how it's going to showcase how important everyone's rights in this country is, irrespective of, what sector you come from. Talk to us about how you think that this event is an enabler of social justice and democracy.
We have a range of art forms, from cartooning to DJing to graffiti to literature to music. And what's important is that it's not just a South African conversation. It's an African conversation and an international conversation with support from the Royal Dutch Embassy, where we have artists from the Netherlands. And we put all these voices together in one platform to highlight that these issues are not unique to South Africa, but that it's important that as South Africa we focus on them and celebrate human rights. It's important that we do so in all our forms, and it's not just about memorializing acts of violence. We want to celebrate our rights and celebrate our diversity and celebrate people of all cultures, races, and so forth. That's what's important about a festival like this.
Now, talk to us about just the dynamics of the actual festival, what the theme is, how long it will run, and how you hope to use art, as I hear you say, just to make the difference and to make the change.
So the festival runs from the 5th to the 8th, and it will all be online. You can find it on Facebook as Artsfluence Fest. It's an orange and black logo. And the importance about doing this through the arts is that arts is where we find hope. It's what people turn to in the darkest of times. In the state of the pandemic, it's what got everyone through and is still getting people through. It's music, it's art, it's videos, it's TV, it's film. It's where people go for hope. And we want to put all of that together and inspire people through the various forms of art. You can access it online. It's absolutely free. And it's done through the University of KZN, through the Center of Creative Arts, and it will be through Facebook and YouTube in a way that people can engage with the conversation and participate with these people on the forefront of the arts and human rights, like Peter Dirk Ace, like Joanne Joseph, Eusebius McKaiser, and some of our international artists like Stalin Nyatsi.
And you mentioned the importance of not just, keeping it a South African festival, but engaging, with the continent and eventually internationally. I mean, we are currently celebrating Africa Month. How are you planning to bring about those other countries in Africa specifically, to join into the festival, and maybe some of the organizations that you're including?
So what's wonderful is that we've had a cartoon competition where we called for applications for people to do cartoons on satire, and we opened up the competition to the whole of Africa. And we've had entries from Nigeria, Uganda, Namibia, across South Africa, Eswatini. We've had quite a few applications from across, and it's really wonderful to see all of our continental cartoonists coming together. We've got a fantastic cartoonist, Teo Fatunla from Nigeria, who will be moderating the competition, along with South African cartoonists Nanda Subin and Andy Mason, and also a Dutch cartoonist, Tjeerd Tiert Royards, who will be moderating that. And so we've also got a wonderful comedian from Namibia who is a young comedian, Chelsea Shikongo, who does Your Namibian Humor on YouTube. So we've got a range of very young African artists, very old experience, who've been in the game for over 40 years. And it's important for us to see that African unity as part of that conversation, as we celebrate human rights through the African Union, through the South African Constitution, through the UNESCO rights, human rights, to see those rights come into action and to speak vocally about them. Because if we don't speak about them, they fall off the table, they fall off the conversation, and people like we've seen in Kenya in recent months have had huge LGBT rights violated, and we need to keep the story alive so that we can protect the lives and dignity of those who live here.
And you know, just going off what you're saying about just consistently being vocal about some of the injustice that we are seeing over the past few years, which has, in my view, escalated, particularly, as you say, as it relates to the LGBTIQ community. Talk to me about how you think that this festival will be different from just some of the talk and some of the festivals that we've seen over the years, and still there are the most heinous crimes being leveled against certain communities.
What's unique about this festival is that many festivals that we see in South Africa and around the world are centered around form. So you might have a puppetry festival or a dance festival. This festival is around theme, and it highlights human rights in specific. And this year we're focusing on particularly the marginalized communities of women and the LGBTQI community, and in future years we hope to build on these themes and focus on other pertinent areas. So what makes this different is that we are having people like Pierre de Vos, the expert on constitutional rights, to moderate the conversation on where are we in terms of what is the limits of freedom of expression, and how can we extend that and not censor the important voices that need to be heard, not only in South Africa, not only in Africa, but also across the world. So that conversation is important, especially to have it with significant artists who've made huge inroads in this field, like Dean Hutton, who has significant work on racism and how protest art is allowed, and how we have artists like Hajooj Kuka from Sudan, who was arrested for working on a piece, and he was arrested for public disruption, which the Center for Creative Arts put out a letter of support to release him and his 5 co-collaborators. So this festival is not just about arts, it's how the arts have connected with each other and put pressure on government, on legal bodies to recognize the space and important society can be involved in active citizenry through the arts.
You talk of active citizenry, you talk of the Constitution, and I like the fact that you mentioned Pierre de Vos's involvement. Do you think that as a community, as a South African community, as a collective, we are doing enough to hold those in power accountable? Because as we said, we have this Constitution that does protect us. Do you think we are doing enough, you know, to make the noise, to make sure that the people that are in power and in office are held accountable?
I think that in recent months, there has been a significant turnaround of active citizenry, particularly within the arts. There has been active citizenry within the student movement, within the workers' movement, and that has definitely come into the arts movement. And what we see happening is that the artists are recognizing the power that they have, particularly with their platforms. Though they are individual artists, they have the power of the audiences who love and support them. So artists are realizing their power and are coming together through forms like Twitter and Facebook and so on, but also in person and making gatherings and standing up for their rights and saying, this is not okay, this is important, and the arts are important. And we have to remember that with the support of the Dutch, the arts in South Africa was a protest movement in the 80s. And through the 90s and the early 2000s, that voice was softened. And I see now that that voice is coming back to the fore, that people are saying, hang on, we have something to say. The arts are important in shaping the way people think, and it's important in the way that people act in society. And I see that artists are really stepping up and saying no more. No more will we be violated in terms of the way we are treated and addressed, and the dignity of artists. So the works that people are making are more and more political. And it's very interesting about how we are seeing kind of energies from the 80s coming back. Even simple things like protest T-shirts entering into the art form again, because we have beautiful protest T-shirts from the 80s, which we've lost over the 90s and the 2000s, but we see that coming back. And so the arts are really stepping up and holding government account, because I think we're at a point in society where we're going, we can no longer leave this to the authorities. We have to do it ourselves. And the artists are seeing that in their own power as well. And it's really beautiful and empowering to see.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time there this afternoon. Yusrah Bardien talking to us there about the inaugural Artsfluence Human Rights Festival that, of course, will be running from the 5th of May to the 8th of May 2021. It will be virtual. Thank you so much.